Hey, Ramsey, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Ramsey Majraba. I'm a sales engineer out of Ottawa, Canada, as well to being a husband and a father, but nobody cares about that.
Except for your wife.
Well, she does, but she won't listen to this. So hopefully,
No.
I won't. I'll tell her not to listen to this. Yeah. So I've been a sales engineer for the last 5 years. I'm in the test and measurement industry, and I can get into more details if you want, or I can just end it here.
Yeah, well, why'd you get into that role as opposed to staying an engineer?
Uh, I didn't plan on getting into this role. I got into it by accident. So I was, in my opinion, severely underpaid in my engineering job. So I applied to every single job outside of that company that I could find, and I got the interview for a sales engineering role.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was. I showed up. They asked me sales engineering questions. It seems that I've answered it right. I got the job. I took it, and I've been loving it since. So it
Yeah.
was a happy accident.
And what do you like about it?
Everything. Well, it's a mix of technology knowledge and business knowledge.
Yeah.
And people knowledge. So it's those three pillars, in my opinion. And I can combine those three. I enjoy doing the three of them together versus focusing on one. So it worked out for my personality.
Yeah. And do you work with one sales rep or several?
Uh, I have worked in the past with only one. Right now,
Yeah.
I work with kind of half. My country director is also my salesperson, and I also have some sales responsibilities. So I do most of the work. He does the quoting. So that's how it's working out.
Easy. There's salespeople listening to this.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the role that he has. Other salespeople. So he's giving me that responsibility. I'm not saying that he's not doing his job.
Yeah.
He is the
I'm
director
joking.
for Canada.
Yeah.
In case he's listening, you're amazing. So he's also my manager. So I have to say that.
And so do you do more than demos? You do proof of concepts? Give me an idea what your day's like.
So yeah, I do pretty much anything post-sales and pre-sales. So if we're talking about selling, I do the discovery. I'm part of the discovery call. I gather all the requirements, whether it's technical or business oriented. I then craft the demo, which in theory it should be to demo how to solve the business problem, not to show them the technology that they're going to use to solve that problem.
Yeah.
And then I work on the bill of materials. By the way, if you're Arab and you're at an airport, don't use the acronym BOMB at the airport.
That's
It's a
probably
bad
not a
idea.
good one to use.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way. And then I work on the proposal with my account manager, who then takes over and does a presentation of the
That's
proposal.
bill of materials for those listening.
Yes, bill of material. Nothing to do with explosives.
Yeah. And no, so what do you like about the job as far as it compared to being a pure engineer? Because I made that transition as well, and it can be uncomfortable.
Yeah. So I don't like sitting in front of a computer the entire day.
All
Pure
day.
engineers end up sitting, like, I was in support and I was in network design, and both of those, it was very reactive.
Yeah.
So I get a call, I have to fix the problem right away when I was in support, or I get a call from the customer and now I have to design a network. It's sitting in front of your computer, working on spreadsheets, doing some configuration. It has some fun parts, but the part that I like about sales engineering in general is the fact that I get to talk to customers, understand what their problem is. I can help them build a vision of what the solution could be, and seeing that light, like, okay, I got what you're talking about, and then providing a solution. It's solving a problem. It has some like adrenaline rush to it where you actually solve a problem.
And what's the persona that you're selling to? Is it also technical people?
Yes, my customers are network element manufacturers, so the like of Cisco, Juniper. So I'm talking to people who write standards for the different technologies that I try to sell them. So they're very techy. They know a lot more than I do when it comes to the technology. I know a lot more about my product, which is how we work together.
Are they a tough crowd?
Depends on the company or the person. Yeah. So some are very tough. Some are very lenient. I find because I have the same customers, I don't work with new customers. I have existing named accounts.
Okay.
I get the opportunity to build that relationship with them. And I've had people like something goes wrong, they yell at me, it went wrong, and then they come and apologize saying, I'm not yelling at you, I'm yelling at your company.
Yeah.
Something like that. So they're good with me. I do my best to support them. So yeah,
Yeah.
depends
So, I
on the
mean,
person.
you got post-sale support as well then, huh?
Yeah, I do all of it.
Yeah.
It's an amalgamation of everything, basically. Yeah.
And what's the hardest part of your job?
Post-sale support.
Yeah.
I'm being back to being reactive instead of proactive. I'm not out, like, I'd like to be out there finding new deals for my sales guy. If I go meet up with customers, they tend to tell me about their problems versus go there and fix an issue, sit in the lab for 3 hours. That's time away from finding new deals, working on a demo.
Right.
And like, I have planned the day and now the day just got wasted.
Right.
Because it's an urgent, we're working on the urgent, not important versus
Right.
the important.
Get a fire drill.
Yeah. Yeah. It's putting out fires is what we do.
And how do you find it working with salespeople?
Depends on the salesperson. Some salespeople are great. Yeah, like I've had salespeople who have never worked with SEs.
Yeah.
And think we're a free resource. And I've worked with salespeople who know what SEs do, who have been SEs in their lives and know how to use us to the best of our abilities. Right.
And what do you see as the difference for the audience?
Well, so sales engineers work differently from salespeople. Sales engineers usually have chunks of hours where they have to dedicate to a certain task. Salespeople might have like 5-minute blocks or 10-minute blocks where they call up customer after customer after customer, and that's a task that's done. I'm sitting and working for 3 hours on a demo. And that's the part that some salespeople don't understand. I've had a situation where my sales guy calls me up and says, we have a demo tomorrow. I'm like, what's it about? I'm like, I don't know. Like, well, it's going to be tough to demo. You don't know. I've never heard of it before.
Yeah.
So I called up the customer. I had a good relationship with him. I did my own discovery and I pushed it one day and I ended up working for 3 hours on the demo, which is but not a long time by any means, where I had to script, configure, and then practice it.
Yeah.
Showed up on the customer side, had the sales guy with me. I did the demo. We walked out and he looks at me. Couldn't you have done that yesterday? It's just a few clicks. I'm like, no. Like, if it's just a few clicks, you can do it.
Yeah. They don't understand it at all.
Yeah, I had to explain it. But luckily, he was getting it. Like, yeah. He came from a commodity sales, or not a component sales, where he didn't have a sales engineer.
Right.
Coming to a world where you need a sales engineer to know the technology, he was getting it. But it was a weird question to have to answer after a few years.
And do you get into very competitive situations?
Yes, it's always competitive.
Yeah.
It's always competitive.
And how do you block out or lock out the alternatives?
So it depends on the situation. What I try to do is talk about the business, what you're trying to solve, and talk. There's in my industry, automation is very sticky. If I can get in there and get them to automate my stuff, it blocks out the competition.
Yeah.
But if I don't understand what the business problem is, they're not going to bring me in the first place. And from what I've seen from other SEs, all they talk about is speeds and feeds. Like, what's the speed you want? How many ports do you want? In the networking world, that's pretty much common. But if you talk about why you're trying to do all that, so dig in a little bit deeper, you can find a solution that the customer may not have thought about.
Yeah.
Instead of selling a commodity, now you're selling a solution.
Right. Instead of talking about the product, you're talking about the problem you solve.
Yeah. It's not always easy. It's harder than I make it sound right now. Like, it took me a few years to get there. Right. But I got there, hopefully. I think so.
Yeah, because people don't want to talk about the problem. They want to hear who you are, what you do, and how's it work. But that's not why they buy.
Yeah, well, most of my customers call me up and say, I need a few more ports.
Yeah.
Why do you need those few more ports? Like, because I want it. Like, they already know that they already think that they have the solution to their own problems.
Yeah.
Which is, why do you need an SE at that point? Like, just buy it yourself. Go online and order something.
Right.
Yeah. So I try to be more of a consultative force versus a order taker.
Yeah.
And some SEs don't.
And let's dig into that. How do you do that? What type of questions do you ask?
Well, all right. So they're asking me for, let's say, extra 500 gig ports. That's right. What are you trying to test? Why are you trying to test that? Are you seeing issues with what you have today? Right. Just to dig a little bit further. Tell me a little bit more about this problem that you're having. Right. Would it work if you used something else? And why are you focused on that for 400 gig ports?
Yeah.
For example, it depends on the situation and the product that we're trying to sell, but it's not settling. I've even SEs that are colleagues of mine, the customer sends a question, say, "Okay, do you support this?" And their response is no. And then I have to follow up, like, "Wait, why are you trying to do this?" "Oh, because we want to do this, this, and that." "Oh, we have this other product that can do that for you."
Right.
It's just that simple thing. It's not rocket science.
Well, but it requires you to push back a little to understand the motive behind the question.
I don't feel like it needs pushback. Like, if you ask the question, the customer will answer. It's just a curiosity.
Yeah.
Like, why are you asking that question to begin with? Like, there's always a reason behind the question.
Right.
So try to understand what the reason is and go from there.
And they're trying to view you as a commodity versus.
Yeah, and that sucks.
It sucks, right?
Yeah, like you can buy a Toyota or a Honda. What makes the difference?
Right. And if they buy the wrong thing, whose fault is it?
My fault. It always comes back to the SE.
Have you ever thought of getting into sales?
I tried it. So I haven't met a single SE, or maybe I'm exaggerating. 90% of SEs that I've worked with who have sat across the table from a sales guy at a customer site haven't looked at that sales guy and said, "I can do that job better." I did that. I said I can do that job better. And then when I got the opportunity, I tried to do that job. I did not enjoy it.
What didn't you like about it?
The politics internally. I didn't mind working with the customer. The customer is fine. I still have the technical skills, so I can consult.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the fact that on the last day of the quarter, I call the customer up, tell him, "Hey, you said you're going to put in that PO. Are you going to put it in?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll put it in at noon." Like, "All right, perfect. I'll see you at noon." Then I get a call 10 minutes later from my director. "Did you call the customer up?" "Yeah." "Call him again." "All right. What should I say?" "I already called him. He said he'll put it in at noon." "I'll call him at noon." He's like, "No, call him right now." Okay. I hang up. I don't call the customer. Then the VP calls me. "Did you call the customer?" "Yes." "Call him again." I just didn't enjoy that part.
Yeah.
And I may have had a bad experience with individuals. Sales might not be that, but that's the experience that I've had.
Well, I mean, the administrative side and the political side of sales is a whole nother world.
Yeah, nobody sees it. SEs don't see that.
SEs don't see that. They think a great demo and you leave, they love your product, they want your product, you think you have a sale.
Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, the great demo that we do. So I made my quota my first 2 years of being an SE, only to find out after 2 years that I suck at it. I was doing, you're familiar with the spray and pray method, or show up and throw up.
Yeah, sure.
I was doing that. I was very good at that.
Yeah.
I was amazing, actually. Nobody could beat me. And I made my quota every year. And then the quota got higher and it get higher. And now I have to learn, like, I'm not achieving that anymore.
Yeah.
Why is that? And it took the senior VP of sales to come and witness my genius and show up and throw up to tell me, "Ramsey, you suck at this. You didn't even do a discovery."
Right.
After 2 years, I had to ask, "What's the discovery?"
Yeah.
And that's when I started learning about what sales engineers should be doing versus what I was doing.
Right. Yeah, because most love talking about the product.
Yeah,
and talking about themselves.
Yep.
And talking in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if you only have an hour or 2 hours, it doesn't matter what you say. You gotta get them talking.
Yeah. And spray and pray only works if there's something on the screen that the customer sees and, like, it works as is. It's a commodities.
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, this chassis looks amazing. I want that."
Right.
But you're never actually solving a problem. The customer's solving their own problem at that point.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't, go ahead.
And it should be a conversation, like over a meal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not there to talk about the food. You're there to talk about what's going on in your world.
Yeah. We never did that. And I had to learn the hard way that that is part of my job as a sales engineer. It's not just the sales guy's person to have that conversation with the customer. As an SE, I know the technical questions or the questions that could get technical information out of the customer. And that's
Right.
part of my job.
And plus, how many times does a meeting go bad or a demo go bad?
Oof. Yeah. No,
Not very often, right?
you don't know. So
Well,
I've done
that's it.
many
Yeah. I
demos.
mean, the demo goes well. They like your product, but they don't, and they go quiet after
Yeah,
that.
nothing happens after that.
Right. Because then,
Yeah.
if you ever looked on the sign-in list, you either saw your competitor ahead of you or they see you, because typically they do you back to back.
Oh, they tell me. Oh, we already did this demo with a competitor last week, or we're doing it next week.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's always a competitive situation.
Right. And too often, people feel like that meeting goes really well, but that's the first date. And it's not hard to have a good first date.
Well, everybody's polite on the first date.
Yeah, exactly.
No one tells you that you're not solving my problem. They just never call you back.
Right. That I don't think this is going to work.
And we've done demos where I've done like the day in the life of you're going to click on here, click on there, you're going to do this and that, and I never help them build a vision of what the solution is, just how to use the product.
Yeah.
So it was a training versus a demo.
And what caused that epiphany? Was it your manager telling you that you weren't doing discovery and that you then learned what discovery is?
Yeah. So, well, that was the start of it. When my VP, it wasn't even my manager. It was like my manager's manager's manager. It had to come all the way from the top. Like, you told me you sucked. I'm like, what else do I suck at?
Yeah.
What else do I need to learn about? And which is where I started learning.
Yeah. And you weren't defensive about it. You were trying to become better.
Yeah. Well, like he didn't tell me that because he hated me.
Right.
He like
on
many occasions. They've told me that they liked me. I knew they weren't trying to throw me under the bus.
Yeah.
And there wasn't like the meeting that he witnessed me do this pray and pray wasn't a really important meeting. It was, oh, the VPs are coming up. Let's just cram as many meetings as we can do in those 2 days.
Yeah.
So there was no planned outcome for the meeting. We're just going in to show you your stuff. We're not going to ask you what the next steps are because we don't even know if you want that stuff.
Yeah.
So there wasn't any planned outcome. So when he told me, like, I didn't lose a deal for them. So when he tells me that you did this wrong, like, okay, it's good to know.
Right.
Maybe I should work on that.
Yeah. And how did you work on it? How did you learn that? Did you read a book? Did you listen to somebody? Did you have someone teach you?
I read a lot of books. There's like, well, for sales engineers, there's like 2 or 3 books about demos and discovery, which I can name them really quickly. Mastering Technical Sales, Great Demo, and Demonstrate to Win. These are the 3 biggest books for sales engineers. So I read those, and then I ran out of books to read. So I started reading sales books, solution selling, spin selling.
Yeah.
And then I read those, and then I figured, well, the best way for me to learn about sales engineering is to talk to other sales engineers. So I just started reaching out to other sales engineers, and I got to learn from them.
Yeah. Within your company or within other companies?
I found that everybody within my company tends to do the same mistakes.
Yeah.
So I had to reach out outside the company.
That's it. Because did you have a technical manager, or you had a manager who was a salesperson?
I had a technical manager, but he was not, I was remote. So I'm in Ottawa, he was in Raleigh, and he did his best to do meetings, but everybody's busy. And whenever he did a meeting for SEs, the sales guys would get pissed off because that's time away from the field.
Right. And plus, it's mostly about technical stuff versus how to communicate with customers.
He tried that. He tried to do both. I hated the technical trainings because it wasn't technical, it was marketing.
Right.
That's what at least in my companies.
Now, after you give a demo, what's the next step? Is there a proof of concept? Is there some kind of testing of the product?
If I do my job well, hopefully not. But in most cases, they're not, because all of my customers were techies. They wanted to get their hands on it.
And they buy it?
No, they would try it out for...
Okay, so there is a proof of concept.
Yeah, a week to 2 years. depending on
You gotta keep it nice and tight.
depending how well we planned it.
Yeah.
Uh,
And how do you do that so you win it? So that it's kind of confined, that they use it, that you differentiate your competition from your competition?
so we try to come up with a test plan.
Yeah.
What do you want to see in the end? Like, what is the end result? And like, these are the tests we're gonna do. And it, like, sometimes here's where SEs and salespeople need to work together.
Yeah.
Some salespeople just like, oh, just give them the stuff, let them play with it.
Right.
And in my mind, like, they're not gonna play with it. If you give them the stuff, it's just gonna sit there for 2 weeks and they're not
Right.
gonna touch it. Which is why I meant years. Like, it could sit there for a long time,
Right.
and they will not play with it once. So if we don't come up with a test plan, we know it's gonna go south. We know we're not gonna win. If we come up with a test plan, there's a better chance of winning. It's not guaranteed because the product has to work. You have to show them value. And yeah, we come up with a test plan, and with milestones, we did this, we did that. You're going to buy at the end. We have to have an agreement that if we do all this, you will buy.
Right. But usually they don't know what they want to test, right?
Well, that's where we come in.
Yeah.
Right.
So you give them ideas, or you derive.
Yeah, I write up the test plan for them.
Good.
This is what you want to see.
Yes.
Agree or not. Here, you can modify it all you want,
Yeah.
but these are the initial ideas.
Now, these are engineers and they have zero budget. They have to go and get that budget. Do you get involved in that part of it, or do you just let the sales rep manage that?
I used to get involved. It depends on the SE. I personally used to get involved with it because my sales guy needed my help with the technical part. So whenever he did the proposal, he wanted to have a technical person to do the technical part.
Yeah.
So I got involved. I worked with the directors, managers, and directors. And yeah, they have to have buy-in before we do the demo.
And did you often run into where it was just a science experiment, where they just wanted to play with the latest, hottest toys?
Yeah, I've done that. We've had that.
Yeah.
And that's where we kind of work with the sales guy. If we give them that equipment, are they going to be happy next time when they want to buy? They will look to us.
Yeah.
And if we don't give them the equipment, will they be pissed off and try to buy our competitors out of spite? What's my role in this? Am I going to be on site helping them play with it? So it depends on the account and the deal, or the future deals that are on the line.
And did you have a sixth sense of when you knew this deal was going to happen versus this is going to be a 2-year goat rodeo?
Yeah. Well, generally speaking, if the director that we're working with actually shows that he's going to buy, it most likely means that he's going to buy. A lot of times we worked with from the bottom up.
Yeah.
Where we work with the engineers, and then they try to convince their managers. I know 100% that's not going to happen.
Because?
Well, one, they didn't even ask if the manager has budget or even wants the product. Yeah. Right. It might be a cool thing that the engineer is working on.
Right.
But cool doesn't solve problems. Yeah, it's a toy.
An experiment.
Yeah, so I know at that point.
Give us a sense of the deal size. Is this $50K, $100K, $1 million?
It varies. Like it could be like $50K. It could go up to $1 million. I've had both ends of the spectrum. I try to work on the $1 million deals. Yeah. But then you end up being in post sales, so you're working on any kind of deal then.
Yeah. And what would you say differentiates you from the other SEs or your competitors?
Well, I can only talk about myself. Like I feel like I'm very self-aware. I know what my weaknesses are, and I know how to leverage people to fill in my weaknesses. Yeah. Because I'm a generalist SE, which means I have a very wide portfolio of products. I'm not an expert in all of them. I'm an expert in 1 and 2. So if there's a product that I don't know, I don't mind bringing somebody else in, which is hard for engineers because they want to control every single thing, and they want to try to do it themselves. So I know where my weaknesses are. I know where I can get other people in. And I think the thing that differentiates me the most is I want to learn. I know I'm not perfect. I know I'm not even close to being perfect. I'm like somewhere in the middle. So I could get better, and I want to learn to get better. And that's the thing.
And what advice would you have for salespeople as far as how to better work with SEs? Because I'm sure you've experienced good and bad.
Yeah. Treat us as partners. We both have the same goal. We are also commission based.
Yeah.
I consider myself like if the sales guy is the CEO, I'm the technical partner, like Jobs and Wozniak.
Right.
I'm
You're
Wozniak,
the
except I'm a
CTO
little
of the
bit
deal.
taller. Yeah. So treat us like that. Work together with us. Come up with a plan with us.
Yeah.
And the more you keep us involved or informed about the deal, the more we can help.
Yeah.
And that worked very well with my sales guy, where he would tell me what deals he's working on that week, he's trying to close. And I would try to do the technical, make sure that the technical close is still closed, nothing open since I last talked to the engineers. And they usually give me information on how the deal is going, which I can then feed back to my sales guy.
Yeah. And what I always hated was everyone referred to SEs as resources versus people.
Yes, I hate being called a free resource.
Right.
I am not free. I'm usually very expensive for the company.
They're very expensive.
I'm not as expensive as salespeople, but I cost the company. And sales engineers are paid more than most engineers.
Right. And I always hate it when they had like an SE manager and he would just like move people around, and because you'd really need the same person through the whole deal. You don't want one person for the demo, one for the proof of concept, one for the final bake-off.
It makes life easier if one person is involved, just because they already know what's happening. They've built that relationship with the customer.
Yeah.
Versus taking someone out and putting someone in. I haven't experienced that because I own a territory.
Smaller.
Yeah. So I own Ottawa, or a part of Ottawa. My customer is my customer. I'm going to be there. Even if somebody else gets involved, let's say somebody more technical than me in one product needs to jump in, I'm still there with them.
Yeah.
To make sure there's continuity.
And where do you want to take your career?
Well, my career personally, there aren't that many options for sales engineers. It's either sales.
The hard part.
Yeah, like most of the SEs I know go into sales, which I tried and I will try to avoid, although I might be pushed in that direction.
Yeah.
I feel like I can help other SEs. So either an SE manager or SE enablement, that sort of role, I think would benefit me and the people that I work with.
Cool. Hey, for those people who are listening and want to connect with you, where should they do that?
Sure. So I have my own podcast and website. It's called WeTheSalesEngineers.com. I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn. Twitter is my handle is at We The SEs, and LinkedIn is Ramzi Majraba, or We The Sales Engineers, the company. So check it out.